The film opens with Charles Heller, a brilliant but introverted cryptographer who works for the CIA. His world is one of numbers, algorithms, and patterns, far from the dangerous lives of field agents. He lives with his wife, Sarah, in a quiet Virginia neighborhood, and although their marriage is loving, it's clear that Charles is emotionally reserved and tends to bury himself in his work. Sarah, who works in security consulting, is supportive but visibly concerned about his tendency to disengage from the world. Before leaving for a trip to London, Sarah reminds Charles to fix their old Cessna, a small plane she bought him as a gift, a project he keeps postponing, and to water the plants. Charles prepares coffee for her, and even though he looks reserved and distant, it is evident that he loves her a lot. Sarah departs for her trip, and Charles returns to work in CIA headquarters. While at work, he is contacted by a secret agent named Inqualine, and he gives Charles top secret files which may pose a risk to his job. Charles tries to guess his location and thinks that he is located in Istanbul. Inqualine remains silent about his location. Charles does not give it much attention at first and goes to lunch with his colleagues. And here we learn that he is extremely good at puzzles. But upon returning, his curiosity kicks in and he starts digging deep into the files received from Inqualine. At first, he is unable to crack the encrypted files, but being adamant, he does not let go. After some time, he succeeded in decrypting the files and is shocked to find out that his own boss, Deputy Director Moore, has ordered several drone strikes and explosions in friendly nations, and it has led to the loss of numerous lives. He does not report it to other superiors and keeps the information to himself. Meanwhile, he receives a call from Sarah, and although she insists in having a conversation, he disconnects the call, citing the reason that he is busy at work. The next day, before going to bed, he calls his wife, but the call goes to voicemail. Not giving much attention to the issue, he asks her to call him back. On the other hand, while Sarah is in London, tragedy strikes. A powerful group of mercenaries take a few people as hostages, and among them is Sarah. They threaten to kill the hostages if the cops don't allow them a safe passage, and to prove their point, shoot Sarah in the head, ending her life instantly. The news reaches Charles while he's at work, and the grief he experiences is raw and overwhelming. He comes back to his house, and the house itself feels extremely empty without his wife. The sadness and depression has reached to the point where he starts hallucinating and sees his wife present inside the house having dinner, but soon snaps out of it. Soon, her remains are handed over to him, and after going through her belongings, discovers a gift which she had planned to give to him. He opens it only to find a puzzle and a heartfelt note, which brings tears in his eyes. What begins as a personal tragedy soon transforms into something darker, as Charles accesses confidential CIA files and discovers something deeply disturbing. The agency had foreknowledge of the terror cell responsible for the attack, but chose not to act. The reasons are vague and buried in bureaucratic misdirection, greater intelligence goals, strategic patience, and asset preservation. Charles requests a formal briefing, but is stonewalled by Deputy Director Moore. His further appeals to Director Samantha O'Brien are met with sympathy, but ultimately go nowhere. He is told to take time off to grieve. Instead, Charles begins digging deeper. He uncovers a list of 4 operatives responsible for executing the incident at London. Mishka Blazik, a Belarusian mercenary; Elish, a former South African Special Forces soldier; Gretchen Frank, a former Armenian operative; and the man overseeing them all, Horst Schiller. Notably, their location is known to the CIA, but they are deliberately left untouched. They were staying in a hotel to carry out an arms deal, but one of the members became violent when the deal went sideways. He discloses his findings to Moore and Caleb, but here, in a shocking twist of events, it is revealed that they were aware of the happenings that took place on that venue on the fateful day, and were hiding it from Charles all along. Unable to process the fact that his wife's death was not only preventable, but also quietly accepted as collateral damage, Charles snaps. He plans to steal the confidential information about the illegal drone strikes, and hence hides a storage device behind the clip of his identification card, and enters the CIA headquarters. Being the designer of half of the surveillance tech of the CIA, it seems to be a piece of cake for him to steal the desired information without getting caught. Using his exceptional knowledge and skills, he hacks the printers and prints all the top-secret documents without setting off an alarm. On the following day, he issues an ultimatum to Moore and Caleb. He informs them that he has already downloaded encrypted files and will leak them unless he is trained and given access to pursue the 4 individuals himself. He adds that he has created a dead man's switch which will activate, if he does not enter a secret code every few hours. This means that they cannot risk killing him, else the secrets will be automatically let out to major media outlets. With public exposure on the line, Moore and Deputy Director Caleb reluctantly agree to his proposal. Charles is sent to Camp Peary, the CIA's clandestine training facility, to prepare for field operations. There, Charles is assigned to a trainer, Robert Henderson, also known as Hendo, a veteran operations officer who seems tough and strict and quite disrespectful to Charles on his first day of work. Henderson doesn't trust Charles and sees him as emotionally unstable and physically unfit for field work. His assessment isn't wrong. Charles fails most physical drills and handles firearms awkwardly. But Henderson soon realizes that Charles's mind is his greatest weapon. He is adaptable, cunning, and capable of thinking several moves ahead. Still, Henderson warns him that this is not a game, and revenge missions rarely end well. On the other hand, Caleb and Moore set up a team to scan through Charles's belongings and his workspace to find any clues about the dead man's switch, but it seems to be a tedious and time-consuming investigation. The fact that Charles now knows about their dark secret makes his presence even more threatening to them. On the other hand, Charles improves his skills with each passing day and becomes quite good at setting up explosives. The investigation finishes, and Moore comes to know that the dead man's switch was a bluff set up by Charles to gain some on-field combat training. An enraged Moore calls Henderson and orders him to kill Charles, but Charles seems to be one step ahead. It turns out that he had already bugged the CIA office and was listening to all of Moore's conversations. Henderson visits his room to finish him off, but finds out that Charles had already fled the compound disguised as a janitor. Using his digital skills and knowledge of CIA surveillance blind spots, he forges a new identity and leaves the country. While on his way on a flight, he reminisces about Sarah and about the day when she had gifted him the Cessna. His first stop is Paris, where he tracks down Gretchen Frank. One day, while she was out, busy with work, he broke into her apartment and stole her firearm. But before he could escape, she returned to her apartment. Seeing this, he hid in a blind spot in the staircase and got ready to shoot her dead. But during the critical moment, he froze and did not have the guts to pull the trigger. She safely enters her room, and failing to accomplish his mission, he escapes from the building. After stalking her movements for days, he discovers that she visits a private allergy clinic regularly. He buys some sunflowers and lilies and extracts their pollens. He reaches the clinic prior to her arrival and hacks into the computers of the clinic. Seeing the systems malfunctioning, the doctor leaves Gretchen alone and goes to check out the issue. Seizing this opportunity, Charles enters the room disguised as a doctor and locks her inside the chamber. He asks her about location of Horst Schiller, but when she denies cooperation, he inserts pollen inside the chamber through the air vents. This makes her panic, and we see her become weak with each passing second. Understanding that she will not survive, he decides to unlock the door. As soon as she gets freed, she uses her skills to take down Charles, but as she was in a weakened state, Charles manages to give her a good fight. Nevertheless, she manages to escape the clinic with Charles chasing her. But unfortunately, she gets hit by a van and loses her life. Seeing her phone drop nearby, Charles grabs it and runs to his apartment. Knowing fully well that the place is no longer safe for him to stay, he decides to take a bus to Marseille, where he is nearly captured by CIA agent Henderson, who was appointed by Moore to kill Charles. He tries to escape the venue, but Henderson seems to be very good at what he does. In a tense sequence inside a seedy bar, Charles creates a distraction by rigging the bathroom stall with a homemade explosive, giving him just enough time to disappear into the crowd. He changes identities again and heads to Istanbul, where he reconnects with Inquiline. As it turns out, Inquiline is dead and his wife has taken over his job. She got trained by her late husband and has been keeping in touch with CIA for the past 6 years. She was in fact the one who has been feeding him data through secure channels. Charles confides in her, and for the first time, he shares the pain of losing Sarah in something other than numbers and puzzles. Together, they attempt to trace Schiller's financial network. They plan on luring out Mishka, and together, they track him down to Madrid. On the other hand, Moore's boss, Director O'Brien, confronts him at a cafe while having lunch and asks about his dark, off-the-book operations. Moore casually denies it and assures her about his full cooperation. After their lunch, O'Brien comes to know that Moore had ordered Henderson to assassinate Charles. After hearing this, O'Brien understands that something very fishy is going on, and to uncover the truth, orders another CIA hitman to go after Henderson. Eventually, Charles locates Mishka in Madrid, where he is staying in a hotel with a transparent rooftop pool. Charles devises one of his most creative kills here. Using his skills, he gains access to the maintenance system and weakens the glass structure below the pool. Meanwhile, Inquiline guides him by using the hotel's surveillance cameras. She discovers that Henderson has arrived at the venue and relays this information to Charles. Even after knowing this, he decides to continue with the plan. He confronts Mishka while he was swimming and asks about the location of Horst Schiller. Although taken aback, Mishka plays cool and lies to him that he does not know about his location. But Charles was not going to give up this easily. He warns Mishka that he had set up explosives under the glass of the pool, and if he does not cooperate, he will die. Even after hearing this, Mishka denies about knowing Schiller's location and decides to swim to the other end of the pool and escape. This turns out to be a fatal mistake as Charles uses a remote to cause an explosion which shatters the glass, leading to Mishka falling to his demise. While escaping, Charles almost gets caught by Henderson, but the other CIA agent sent by O'Brien arrives in the nick of time and tackles him away from Charles. A violent fight breaks out, and Henderson gets shot in the guts. But even after being severely wounded, he manages to shoot the other agent in the head, thereby ending the standoff. Charles bears witness to this fight, but escapes without helping Henderson. Meanwhile, Caleb and his team uncover the secret chats of Charles and Inquiline, which they had before Charles went rogue. Caleb uses his network to locate the precise location of Agent Inquiline and sends a strike team to kill both of them. After a long time of staying alone, Inquiline desires to sleep beside Charles just for company, and Charles agrees to her request. That very night, the strike team reaches Istanbul and surround their compound. Thankfully, due to the clucking of the chickens, they get alerted of the intruders. They manage to escape the house via her car, but are chased by the mercenaries. Charles manages to dodge the bullets, but Inquiline gets killed. Her death devastates Charles as she was the only person who seemed to understand what he was really going through. He manages to escape and, although heartbroken, decides to continue as per his revenge plan. Next, Charles travels to Romania, where he contacts Elish under the guise of an arms dealer. He lures him onto a secret base, far off from locality. In the pretext of selling missiles, he makes Elish open a box, already rigged with explosives which was set up by him in advance. He blackmails Elish into giving Schiller's location and lets him know that as soon as he closes the lid of the box, an explosion will occur which will erase him for good. A scared Elish lets him know about a location in Primorsk, Russia, where Schiller frequently carries out his deals. But even after securing this information, Charles does not neutralize the explosive and Elish dies from the explosion as soon as he tries to escape. After heading to Primorsk, Charles solves the puzzle gifted to him by Sarah. There, he finds a heartfelt message which states, "So you don't get lost in the clouds." Charles traces Schiller to a private vessel off the coast of the Baltic Sea. But all of a sudden, he is ambushed from behind and loses consciousness. Upon waking up, he finds himself being taken into Schiller's boat, which was gifted to him by the CIA. In a cabin, Schiller presents him with a handgun and challenges him to settle things one-on-one, fully knowing that Charles is not a merciless killer. Charles refuses to take the shot. Schiller thinks that he is in control of the situation, but Charles stuns him by saying that he is the one who had designed the code for the navigation system of that boat. He distracts Schiller for quite some time, and then in a shocking twist of events, he discloses that he had already hacked into the ship's navigation systems before being caught, and has rerouted the ship into Finnish territorial waters, triggering an automatic alert to Interpol and the Finnish Navy. Before Schiller can react, Interpol agents and the Finnish Navy arrive and board the vessel, arresting everyone on board, including Schiller. Charles's plan worked, and he didn't need to kill Schiller himself. He just needed to make sure he faced justice. With all his enemies eliminated or in custody, Charles returns to the United States. In the final act, the fallout begins. With Schiller in custody, he spills all the secrets and the details of all the operations that he had carried out illegally for Deputy Director Moore and Caleb. The files which Charles had previously stolen are also leaked to Director O'Brien, detailing the CIA's refusal to act, their knowledge of the terror cell, and the hidden drone strike cover-ups. Deputy Director Moore is forced to resign along with Deputy Director Caleb, and both of them get arrested. In another shocking twist of events, Henderson visits Charles one last time, expressing a quiet but clear respect for what he has done, even if it broke every rule in the book. Charles is visibly shocked to find him alive, but thanks him for the training. The film closes with Charles returning to his old Cessna, finally repairing it as Sarah had always wanted. In the final scene, he takes off alone into the sky, soaring over the Virginia woods, not as a hero, but as a man who refused to let his wife's death go in vain. This is how the movie ends. If you like this recap, please subscribe and check out other videos from the channel. Please also let us know which films you want to be recapped next. Thank you for watching.